As I explored the chapter 12 related to the musical person, I thought about what is it about music? Why does this all matter? What is it about humans that make us musical? Going back to the beginning of our course, even. What is it about me that makes me musical? Do I have certain traits that I share with other musicians? Was I born with or born into music? And how does my multi-ethnic environment influence my musical choices? Especially, how does migration change that, as I have been in the US and in New York and in Orlando and back to Puerto Rico, floating back and forth my whole life. We do know that research shows that environment has a positive influence on musical attributes, but what about practice? How does the design of practice improve one's performance? And then finally, how do behavioral traits change as change one's genetics or environment? So I went back to Puerto Rico. I share this picture of myself at my grandmother's house. She's hanging my clothes. And I thought about the origin of my family's music in the mountains of Puerto Rico. We would be, considering my love for Appalachian music, I don't think there's a whole lot of difference between what I love here in North Carolina and what I hear and play in the mountains of Puerto Rico. The love of country, the love of the environment. You know, here it might be the mountains and the Blue Ridge, and there it's the salty, mountainous terrain of Puerto Rico. Very, very interesting and very similar. So I thought about that and then how moving here has influenced my family as we then became uh, acclimated or assimilated into pop culture and love Elvis and country music along with R&B. But we still always go back to celebrating our music when we get together for funerals, as it is down in that left hand corner with my grandfather playing, and then those of us together at the holidays, playing music together every Christmas. And so I was exposed to music before I was born. There are certain personality traits that characterize or that are shared by musicians. You know, their characters and opinions, attributes, emotional responses. There's certain temperaments related to musicians. Um, and then there's this measure of independence and introversion, sensitivity, and anxiety that is shared by many. So there are some personality factors that these personality factors are completely unrelated to their aptitude and their ability to play. So I did a fun thing. I I created a Google form and I took some of the results that was in the book and I had created a little survey for my musical friends on social media. I was surprised to see how quickly they responded. Um, I was not surprised to read about their struggles with depression, um, but what I found was that primarily their their love for instruments was mostly guitar, and considering that I'm you know I kind of hang around a lot of guitarists, I'm not surprised. So there was a 43.5% folks that play guitar, 26 piano. I asked them about what type of music they listen to, and it was kind of divided down the middle, considering the region here is great with jangle pop, Chapel Hill sound, Americana and bluegrass, and blues and rock. I was not surprised it was divided evenly as far as what they play. But what I found interesting was what they listened to when they're not playing was mostly jazz and R&B, and then some pop. So that was kind of divided up. I let them check all that applied. I didn't want to force them into one answer over another, so that I can see how they answered everything. Most of the folks here do not make a living on music, and I'm not surprised by that. Very few have made it outside professionally. So 57% are hobbyists, and then that 29% is a mixture of both full-time performers and some part-time performers. Um, Pretty much all of them are self-taught. There were only a couple that were formally trained, like at Berklee School of Music or in conservatory. There was all of them have responded to some of those personality questions. One of the things that they shared was a high intensity of depression. They're all pretty much independent. And there was some even distribution between them being introverted and extroverted, and all of them being pretty social. Most of them did come from a musical family. And then when I asked about feminine and masculine instruments, this kind of raised some interesting debate. They felt it was a stupid question these days. But then when the question was posed, um, were you something about I was raised to perceive the following instruments as masculine. So I put those instruments in the same, both list of instruments were both in the masculine and feminine category. But most did state that for that perception was mostly flute and clarinet, and then from masculine, 80% drums and electric guitar. So I don't think there's any surprise there.